The meeting room had the kind of lighting designed to make everything feel rational. Soft, even, faintly clinical. Nothing dramatic. Nothing personal. Just a long, polished table, filtered daylight, and the low ambient hum of a company accustomed to decisions that sounded larger than they felt. I sat near the end, laptop open, pen moving in steady lines across a yellow legal pad. Habit, mostly. "We're selling the company," my father said. He didn't raise his voice. He never needed to. Authority had always settled around him naturally, reinforced by years of repetition, by rooms like this one, by people who had learned to lean forward when he spoke. The vote passed. There was a rustle of papers, small nods, the subtle choreography of corporate agreement. No one looked particularly surprised. The sale had been circulating for months, discussed in fragments, framed as inevitable. Across the table, someone began outlining transition timelines. Another voice followed valuations, projections, regulatory steps. Language moved smoothly, professionally, like water finding familiar channels. My pen kept moving. It would have been easy, I suppose, to interrupt, to ask the obvious questions, to introduce procedural complications into the comfortable flow of consensus. But experience has a way of shaping economy. I had spent years offering thoughts that were listened to with polite patience, and then quietly absorbed into an action. Not rejected. Not challenged. Just diffused. Acknowledgement without consequence. So I took notes: asset transfer structure, closing contingencies, board responsibilities. My father glanced at me once, briefly, the way you check that someone is still present, still participating in the expected way. There was something almost comforting about the predictability of it. By the time the meeting adjourned, the sale already had the emotional texture of a completed event. People stood. Chairs slid back. Conversations resumed in lighter tones, as if the future had been tidied. In the hallway, someone clapped my father on the shoulder. "Congratulations." He smiled modestly. "Long time coming." Outside, the parking lot shimmered under afternoon heat. I sat in my car longer than necessary, the legal pad resting on the passenger seat. The thing about invisibility is that it rarely feels dramatic. It feels administrative. That evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello. Good evening," the voice said. Neutral. Professional. The tonal equivalent of paperwork. "This is regarding the pending transaction." I leaned back slightly. "Yes. I'm calling to inform you that the transfer request has been denied." Denied, not delayed. Not under review. Denied. There appears to be a controlling shareholder objection. For a moment, the words existed without meaning. Then they arranged themselves. "I see," I said. "The decline was registered earlier today." Earlier. Before the meeting. Before the announcement. Before the vote had acquired its comfortable finality. "Is there anything else?" I asked. "No, ma'am. That's all." The line clicked off with quiet efficiency. I sat there, phone still in hand, watching the slow emergence of something that did not resemble triumph. It resembled alignment. The next morning, my father called. His voice carried a tension I was unaccustomed to hearing. "There's been some kind of issue."
"Yes."
"The bank says the sale can't proceed."
"Wes!"
A pause, heavier than usual. "Do you know anything about this?" The question arrived carefully, balanced between suspicion and hope. I declined the transaction. Silence. A real one this time, not conversational, not transitional. "What?" "I declined the sale." "You?" The sentence fractured mid-formation. "That's not possible." "It is." Another silence, sharper now. The vote passed.
"Yes."
"You were in the room."
"Yes."
Then how? A shift, subtle but unmistakable. Not anger yet, disorientation. Institutional reality has a particular kind of gravity. It bends conversations away from emotion and toward structure. "You don't have that authority," he said. "I do." The words felt strangely weightless, like stating a temperature. "That's absurd." The share structure was updated 3 years ago. Silence again. Longer, different. Because disbelief, when confronted with documentation, doesn't explode. It recalculates. "That was administrative," he said finally.
Yes.
You never said, "I didn't think you'd mind." The echo was unintentional, but precise. Something shifted audibly in his breathing, not rage. Not yet. Recognition arriving in reluctant increments. You let us proceed with the meeting.
Wes.
Why? It was an honest question, which surprised me, because honesty had rarely occupied this particular conversational space. I've spent years being consulted after decisions were already made. Another pause, less defensive now. You could have raised concerns. I did. The past existed between us briefly, densely populated with conversations that required no rehearsal. I see, he said. But the words lacked conviction. Not because he didn't understand, but because understanding and acceptance have always been distant relatives. The days that followed were saturated with meetings. Different ones, tighter ones. Lawyers, accountants, advisors speaking in tones of measured neutrality. Authority had entered the room, unmistakable and entirely indifferent to family dynamics. Documents replaced assumptions. Structures replaced narratives. My father's posture changed, not dramatically, but perceptibly. Questions replaced declarations. Clarifications replaced conclusions. No one apologized. Corporate environments are not designed for that kind of language. One afternoon, we sat across from each other in a smaller conference room. No shareholders. No audience. Just filtered light and a stack of printed agreements. You should have told me, he said. The sentence carried neither accusation nor warmth, just fatigue. Would it have changed anything? He hesitated. A small, human pause. I don't know, which, for my father, was its own form of admission. We spoke for another hour, not about the sale, but about mechanics, timelines, alternatives, neutral ground. When the meeting ended, nothing felt resolved, nothing felt repaired. But something fundamental had altered, not in emotion, but in orientation. Recognition, it turns out, doesn't always arrive with ceremony. Sometimes it enters quietly, carried by compliance departments and banking protocols. And once established, it tends to linger long after the conversation ends.